It's the final word daily at Lord's. Second test match, Adam Collins and Jeff Lemon for Westfield, London. Westfield, Stratford City, more extra, less ordinary. Jeff, 30 seconds, all yours.
3:38 for 5 when Australia resumed this morning. Alex Carey out quickly, so is Mitchell Starc, and then Steve Smith goes on to test ton number 32 for him, gets to 110. He gets out, nicks off into the cordon. Cummins makes 22 not. They make 416. They're all out, and then England go absolutely nuts. 91 off the top for the opening stand. Crawley's out in the second session. Then Nathan Lyon injured. Huge news off the field with a calf injury. Australia go for the short ball attack. It kind of works. It kind of doesn't. We've got Duckett. We've got Pope. We've got Root. They're all out. They're 4 for 236 or something at the close.
It worked. Just so, when things were trending.
Was that more or less right? What was the...
I'll fill in the gap, shall I? At the close of play, England are 278 for 4. They trail by 138.
I was off by 40 runs.
Brooks on 45 from 51, doing as he pleases. Stokes going the other way, 17 from 57. After the carnage, where Pope for 42, then Duckett for 98, and then Root for 10, all fell to the short ball immediately after Nathan Lyon was injured. Let's go right there to begin with, Jeff. So Nathan Lyon charging in to attempt to take a top edge, has pulled up, and we've had it confirmed it's a calf injury. And that is the point where England have a choice to make. Do they try and keep going as hard as they did to that point after tea, 5.5 overs for about 45 runs, or do they try and exhaust Australia? They tried to keep going. Australia pulled the short ball lever right then, and it worked. Sometimes these things backfire, sometimes they don't. They could have had a fourth wicket in that flurry as well, although it was Root who got out shortly thereafter anyway. But it was frenetic. It was difficult to understand from England's perspective, and it might still yet be defining in this match. They had a chance to grind Australia down.
It felt weird. I don't know. I mean, I was watching this and writing something, and every time I looked up, I was like, why is this field like this? Why are you doing this? What is happening here? None of this made a lot of sense. And it felt like an ego thing. It felt like the Australians saying, oh, well, you want to play the way that you said you were going to play? Go on then.
Yep.
Have a go. And they did, and they kept having a go. And in the same way as Nathan Lyon batted in the first innings, by the way. Like he batted in the first innings at edge batsman. Oh, short ball, have to hook it. Rather than the way he played in the second innings, which was, if you actually play a bit more sensibly, you can help your team win matches. It felt like that with England today, the way Duckett was taking it on, the way that Brook was backing away and baseballing everything. And maybe it works, maybe he makes 100 doing that tomorrow. But it felt like it was making it unnecessarily high-risk cricket when particularly with the injury to the main spinner for the opposition, you've got the opening, you've got the chance to put them under the cosh slowly, not quickly.
So Lyon gets Crawley stumped for 48, and he's the only bowler to have an economy rate, well, with the exception of Travis Head, who bowled 4 pretty tidy overs towards the end of play, which was even remotely in kind of the span of normal. All the quicks were going around, especially Hazelwood.
Cummins not so much.
Sorry, right, quite right. But Cummins and Hazelwood were going around it up to 8 and over at one stage, and I think there's a bit of a difference between the way Brook was doing it and the way the others were. But the timing of the other piece of the puzzle, it's not even a thing, but how they timed.
Timing of the piece of the
puzzle. What am I saying that for? How they timed their
jigsaw
assault, if you like. It did feel like an ego thing. That's why I think Cummins played it so well. Remembering that Cummins was off the field just before that, copping a ball to the eye, had to go off for a concussion test and a bit of ice on the eye. I think he'll have a shiner tomorrow from a ball that bobbled up and hit him. And that's when he said, well, look, I reckon you guys are going to keep trying to hook us. And he was right. But my criticism would be is that if England had said at that point, all right, well, let them exhaust their bowlers doing that. It takes a lot. We hear from quicks, retired quicks all the time. You can get away with doing that for one spell or maybe a couple of spells a day, but only Neil Wagner can do it time and time again. They had the chance to, my mate Steve Kinane, colleague from the ABC, said the last week about England's approach to declaring in the first innings. They should have kept batting, not for any strategic reason, but to break Josh Hazelwood in half, right? And I felt the same way here. They might have found a way to hurt another Australian bowler who was overdoing it, and instead they lost 3 wickets in a flurry, and it felt thoroughly unnecessary, and it felt like they were trying to be equal to the challenge. They were trying to go toe-to-toe with them, right?
Yeah.
And they didn't really need to. They just got rid of Nathan Lyon.
Well, what they do is they give Australia this juice, this adrenaline burst, because they're looking a little bit short of ideas at times through that innings. So if we start at the start, I mean, Crawley and Duckett, this is interesting. The first, 5 or 6 overs, they didn't actually tee off. They were just knocking singles around. They were being relatively cautious.
Even longer than that, I'd say. It was about 10 overs in, they they shifted gears.
Well, there's 4 overs before lunch where they're knocking it around, and then a few overs after lunch, and then they shift gears, but not in a crazy way. But it's more Crawley doing the thing he does of standing up tall, playing, like getting on top of the bounce, punching it down through mid-off, punching it through the covers, flicking it through the leg side. I mean, it was impressive. It was, if you discount the Ireland opening stand, they put 100 on against Ireland the other week. Aside from that, that's the first. It's the biggest opening partnership England would have had against Lords since Strauss and Cook were doing their thing before 2010. So it's been a while since they've had successful opening partnerships at Lords. They managed to get one. They put 91 on the board. Australia look out of ideas. Lions the one with the breakthrough, with the stumping. And then again, they're looking a bit short of ideas when Pope's out there going well. But he does the old back away, flip, pull shot down to fine leg, gets himself caught. And then the way the top edge from Duckett, the Warner celebration from that, it showed you, like the Australians were so energised at that point because they get Duckett for 98. And he's living by the sword and he dies by it, and fair enough. But the big double fist pump to the crowd, that's Warner saying, like, we are fired up, we're into this.
So Pope didn't need to do that. He got, I think, carried away with the emotion of the situation. He tried to play that shot the over before with 3 men back, didn't touch it, but you're thinking, gee, imagine he gets out with effectively a premeditated hook shot, and so it was.
Yep.
The passage of play you're describing there, Duckett and Crawley weren't playing overly aggressively. They were taking advantage of the fact that there were gaps in the field because the field was up, trying to take catches. All of this is fine, relatively normal cricket, but it's the way that they've found a way. It's the biggest partnership England have had for the first wicket against Australia, going all the way back to 2011.
Right.
So, again, putting it all into context, just how well they were travelling. Look, Duckett does play at everything. We know that. We've been all joking about it and having our fun. But today it was working. He was seeing it like a beach ball. The way he carves either side of point when he's going well, it's reminiscent of Travis Head. And he can also sort of shovel it out into the onside as well. So, yeah, getting out when he did, missed the chance to drive home the advantage.
Good line from a reader on the Guardian OBO today that Ben Duckett stays at the Hotel California. Why? Because he can check out, but he can never leave.
Very good, very good. And I think, the other thing here is that Stokes showed again, as he did in the second innings at Edgbaston, that if you sign up to the philosophy that he and McCullum are espousing, it doesn't mean you need to go at every single moment of every single day. He showed that in the last, 90 minutes of play or hour of play or whatever it was. What is he, 17 from 57? He's barely fired a shot in anger. There was no reason why that hour of play, they've put on 56 or 57, couldn't have been the previous hour of play when they had guys who they rely on to be their engine room. Remember, they're still, 147 behind in the test, and they got themselves to a spot when Duckett was batting with Pope. I mean, WinViz isn't perfect, but it had them ahead in the test. This morning when they arrived, they were way behind. They did so well to get where they were, only to throw much of it away.
And it's interesting that Stokes isn't doing it. He's a do as I say, not as I do sort of captain at the moment, the way he batted at Edgbaston as well. We have seen him bat super aggressively in other test matches that he's played under this philosophy, but he hasn't done it in these 2 Ashes tests. I wonder if it's because he has played Ashes cricket before and he knows that it's a tough situation and he knows that you need to shift the tempo a bit. But he's not suggesting to anyone else that maybe they should think about doing that.
Maybe.
It's an interesting contrast.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know what the conversations are in the dressing room. If Brendan McCullum or Ben Stokes gets asked tonight if they're doing telly, I'm not sure if they're doing media, but what they thought of those flurry of short balls all being taken on, all being caught in the deep or in Root's case around the corner, because Pope's, it was gloved up, wasn't it? So,
there's one moment, right? So there's a Harry Brook, he backs right away to the leg side, huge swipe. I can't remember if he made contact and cluffed it for 2 or if he missed it completely. Either way, Ben Stokes comes down halfway down the pitch as if he's going to have a word, and then just does a bit of gardening and goes back again, doesn't say a word. Like, what? I'm puzzled. I'm just puzzled what's going on with that relationship.
From an Australian bowling perspective, Stark does get a wicket, and it's the big one of Root, but to that point he was going at 7s or 8s or even 9s at different points. He wasn't able to get the ball moving around too much apart from one ball just before lunch. He was giving them opportunities to score pretty regularly, as he did against India at the Oval as well for the most part until that final day. So, yeah, I know why they picked Stark here. I get the logic behind it. He's bowled some amazing white ball spells here. The slope should in theory be to his advantage, but there'll naturally be questions as to whether Boland or Nisa would have been better suited to the conditions, but that's a conversation for another day, I suppose.
Or whether they would have been slot for these kind of
or
players
possibly,
to punch all over the place.
Yeah.
Who knows? So
I suppose you need Stark to contribute to the short pitch attack, right?
Right.
You need 3 bowlers to be in rotation.
And you need to have pace to be able to do it. Boland does have a nasty bouncer.
Green as well, sorry, 4 of them.
Yeah, so Green was involved in there as well. So they're 150 odd behind, and it's one of those things where, good partnership tomorrow, Bairstow to come, they could stream into a lead,
sure,
or they could fall in a heap and it could all be over 100 short. Like it's, it could go drastically in 2 directions tomorrow. Maybe we should go back to the start of the day as well, to Steve Smith. Test 100, number 32, that takes him level with Steve Waugh. So Ricky Ponting's the only Australian with more Test 100s than Steve Smith now. That feels, that's where he deserves to be. He is at least the second best after Ponting in that span since World War II. But numerically, he is there. He should get at least another couple to get him past old Stephen Roger.
Well, 99th Test match. Waugh played another third on from that in terms of where he finished up as a Test cricketer, which again just provides a framework around his achievement. Well over 9,000 Test runs. He's 7th in England. I think he's 12th in Ashes cricket or something like that. It's a phenomenal
Definitely
record.
is 12th. So that's Jack Hobbs. Jack Hobbs and Smith have 12. Bradman has 19. That's in Ashes cricket. The other milestone he caught, I think it's 3,173, was Steve Waugh's. Sorry, I just got distracted by some dickhead. Steve Waugh's tally of Ashes runs was 3,173, and Steve Smith went past that today. So
good.
Again, it's Hobbs and Bradman ahead of him for Ashes runs. So he's ticked off some pretty substantial milestones today.
Yeah, and he was frustrated when he walked off. You could see he was gesticulating to himself and pointing at the way he got out and so on. He was trying to celebrate, but and it was a nice celebration with Cummins as well. Cummins stood next to him and just clapped at Smith, in recognition of his vice captain's huge contribution, making that possible to get beyond 400, but they did lose 5 for 77 today. Let's not brush over that. England did get wickets
really
early
well.
on. They had Anderson and Broad get wickets early on. Broad's ball to Carey was a beauty after starting sloppily with 2 balls that were clipped away for 4 outside the leg stump in that same over.
The good review.
The great review.
It's given not out. It's maybe an inside edge. It's maybe going down, but it's neither of those things. It's 3 reds, and Broad talks them into it. He's like, I know this one is out.
Well, I was going to put it in the Hall of Fame, but I'll do it now. Him saying to Stokes 10 times, it's out, it's out, it's out, it's out, it's out. Until Stokes says, it's out, is it? Okay, we'll go upstairs. And so the projection proved with the ball hitting most of the leg stump or enough of the leg stump. And then, Anderson gets Stark. He plays an expansive shot. Great take by Bairstow in front of first slip, which will do him the world of good in terms of his confidence, and the tail doesn't add too much, with the exception of Cummins, who's the not-out man and got an average in excess of 100 with the bat during the series.
104 in this series, 104 runs for once out, Pat Cummins.
But 77, you would have said
it
felt
point. Like a success. With Smith and Carey resuming, to get them out for adding 70-odd today, that's a win.
I thought that when I got here this morning, I thought if England can keep them under 100 from where they are, then they win, they win that little skirmish, and they did. So England had something to take into their batting innings, and Tongue picked up another wicket. Robinson picked up 2 more at the end to end up with 3 as well, but Tongue was comfortably the best of the bowlers. Yeah,
and Robinson sort of flattered by getting a couple late when they were slogging. He's got I heard it described as dipping his bread today. Robinson dipped his bread. Hadn't heard that before. It's quite good.
It's fair enough.
Sort of into the juices, I guess, at
there
the
are
end of the roast.
There are a lot of dreadful days as a fast bowler when you can't get anything out of the surface, where you're allowed to cash in occasionally.
Right. Look, that's the situation as it stands. At 2 days in, it's a bit like the women's test in Nottingham, where everyone scored so quickly that the results are entirely possible, as long as we don't get interruptions. And thank you to the rain for staying away today. It was supposed to rain till about 4 p.m, which means we would have gone on at about 5:30 and played till about 9 p.m. So thankfully that didn't happen.
Absolutely.
We got through. Hall of Fame time?
Let's do it. It's the Hall of Fame. Which final word of Hall of Fame, that's elegant. Brought to you by Westfield, London, and Westfield, Stratford City. Now, I have some information to share with you, Jeff, which has been sent through by Sheehan, who is the man of the
Westfield
magical pen.
Yep. Okay.
To celebrate Putt Shack at Westfield and their 5th birthday, Westfield, London, I should say, the one in Shepherd's Bush.
Big golf
They're
lovers
giving
on this
away their first. Let me get this right. They are giving away their first 100 walk-ins on Friday, the 30th of June.
Okay. A
free game of mini golf and a glass of bubbly.
Okay.
Come and celebrate the special day with them. Their birthday at Putt Shack at London, Westfield, London.
Yep.
I'm going well today. And encourage your friends and family to enjoy some friendly competition and great vibes. And getting everyone in the party mode. Did you see? Party, golf, party mode. Those who stop by Putt Shack, Westfield, London, in White City this Friday will also receive a complimentary glass of fizz to raise a toast and commemorate the occasion. There you go. High-tech mini golf, delicious food, drinks menu, terrific vibes.
Puns as well, and it's a double pun because there's one at one end of the word and one at the other end of the word. All right, I'll accept it on this occasion.
And you can't cheat, I'm told here.
Friday. So Friday's tomorrow?
You can't cheat.
No, Friday's day.
And you can also play Puttman, beer pong, other things.
Friday's tomorrow. Friday's day 3. I really had to check that to make sure that's
playing days and non-playing days when you're on tour.
That's it. It's
wedding days and non-wedding days.
It's the evening of day 3 where you can go down there and get in for free. So punch them into Google and see
Putt
what you get.
Shack, baby.
Putt Shack. So what was Hall of Fame worthy today? I had something and then I forgot what it was.
I'll give you a few things.
Okay.
The final word was on Sky yesterday.
Oh,
Mel
yeah.
Jones, love you, mentioned our interview with Carl McDermott, the curator here at Lords, and said nice things. So if you want to go and find that, it's on the Final Word Twitter feed.
Yeah, if you want to find out all about cricket pitches, we sat down for almost an hour with the head groundsman at Lords and asked him every question about pitches from the very basic. How do they work? What's it about? Because everyone thinks they know about cricket pitches and no one does. We don't. Nobody does, except for Carl.
Well, speaking of the ground staff, they were called out at one point and I couldn't see what was in the hands. I thought it was a bottle of water. Okay. And one of the ground staff, a younger fellow with a moustache, he received a great ovation and doffed his cap at the end, or his bucket cap, I should say, for the Red for Ruth Day and all the rest of it. But he, it wasn't a bottle of water. It was a spray paint can because Cameron Green wanted some extra lines marked in his bowling run up where he was taking off from. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Of course, they all use spray paint to mark their runs, but not sort of mid-spell.
Yeah.
And he had that no ball problem that brought a wicket, which is probably Hall of Fame worthy as well, Jeff. It would have been 2 and over from the short ball, Root gone for nothing, or
Root goes for 10 in the end. And what would be great is if he gets him to bring out the spray paint and then he just marks out like an Abbey Road crossing, and then the 4 fast bowlers all do a photo shoot on it.
Or better still, he has his graffiti tag from high school.
He's just like nuts with a Z or something.
Havoc with a
noob. Right, so my one was bringing Steve Smith on for one over at the end, bowling some off breaks. It just took me back in time because we're standing on a street outside Lords shooting this, and in 2013 Steve Smith came on late. He took 3 wickets with his leg breaks, maybe 3 for 9 in the spell or something. He's got a bowling average of 21 at Lords, by the way, Steve Smith. And on that day, Cam Fink and I, our videographer who we've worked with, went out and did Vox Pops, which is it's a crapshoot, it really is. But we found a guy who was dressed as Steve Smith, and so we interviewed him as though he was Steve Smith and asked him about his spell at the end of the day. And he was very much under the weather, but he was actually genuinely funny. Some people are funny and some people are not funny. So it brought back memories of that for me. That was my whole.
I think one of our listeners, Nick Tuvey, used to do that at nightclubs, saying, "I look a bit like Steve Smith, don't I?" and all the rest of it.
Not really.
Not really. Sorry, Tubes. That's the Final Word Hall of Fame for Westfield London and Westfield Stratford City. More extra, less ordinary. Google them, learn more about them, and go to Putt Shack for their 5th birthday tomorrow. I'm not sure whether we can. I'm not sure what my commitments are.
We're not going to get there early
enough. But the first 100 people get looked after.
Yeah.
Tell them we sent you.
Tell them we sent you, and par and tea and something. I don't know.
Party on.
Ridiculous sport. All right, final word. Ashes Daily. See you later.
Mate.